Good morning, everyone. Paul Ruppel here with Fox 29 News Now. Hope your Thursday's off to a good start. We are awaiting a news conference being held by U.S. Attorney General William Barr. He is expected to preview the release of the redacted version of the Mueller report, the special counsel's investigation into interference in the 2016 presidential election. Here is some video of Mr. Barr leaving his home in Virginia this morning on his way into the office. Again, this 9:30 news conference is to present his findings before releasing to the findings of the Mueller investigation before those are released to Congress and the public. Members of Congress will receive a redacted version of the 400-page report, likely between 11 a.m. and noon. Soon after the 400-page report is released, the White House is expected to publish a rebuttal. Before this news conference gets underway, let's get you a report from...
Set your watches for 9:30 Eastern. The Attorney General holds a press conference. Then the report goes to Congress a couple of hours later, and we then get a chance to look through it. There will be redactions, parts that are blacked out, and already Democrats are crying foul about the Attorney General's press conference before he's had it.
The central concern here is that the Attorney General Barr is not allowing the facts of the Mueller report to speak for themselves, but is trying to bake in the narrative about the report to the benefit of the White House. And of course, he's doing this just before the holiday weekend, so it's extraordinarily difficult for anybody to react.
Democrats are also upset about a new report in the New York Times claiming Justice Department officials have had numerous conversations with White House lawyers about the conclusions made by Mr. Mueller, and that the talks have aided the president's legal team as it prepares a rebuttal. Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, will likely release a 40-page counter-report later today, and we may even hear from the president himself.
You'll see a lot of very strong things come out tomorrow. Attorney General Barr is going to be giving a press conference. Maybe I'll do one after that.
But we won't see all of the Mueller report. Parts will be blacked out or redacted, including grand jury information, classified information, ongoing case information, and privacy information. Republicans in Congress are hitting back at Democrats.
And the executive branch and the Attorney General can do whatever he wants to do. It's not for the legislative branch to tell them what to do or how to conduct themselves.
At some point, select members of Congress will get to see the entire unredacted version of this report. So there will be leaks and spin about that. And of course, as always, keep your eye on the president's Twitter account. In Washington, Leland Vittert, Fox News.
Thank you to Leland Vittert for that report. We are awaiting the start of the news conference here in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Justice. Again, U.S. Attorney General William Barr to discuss the impending release of the redacted Mueller report, the special counsel's investigation into the 2016 presidential election and possible Russian interference in that election. We'll hold on this shot and take you to the news conference as soon as it gets underway.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for being here this morning. As you know, on March 22nd, Special Counsel Robert Mueller concluded his investigation into matters related to Russian attempts to interfere in our 2016 presidential election, and he submitted his confidential report to me pursuant to department regulations. As I said during my Senate confirmation hearing and since, I'm committed to ensuring the greatest degree possible of transparency concerning the special counsel's investigation, consistent with the law. At 11 this morning, I'm going to transmit copies of the public version of the special counsel's report to the chairman and ranking members of the Senate and House Judiciary Committees. The Department of Justice will also make the report available to the American people by posting it on the department's website after it has been delivered to Congress. I'd like to make a few comments today on the report. Before I do that, I want to thank Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein for joining me here today and for his assistance and counsel throughout this process. Rod, as you know, has served at the department for nearly 30 years with dedication and distinction, and it's been a great privilege and pleasure for me to work with him since my confirmation. He had well-deserved plans to step back from public service that were interrupted by my asking him to help in my transition. Rod has been an invaluable partner, and I am grateful that he is willing to help me and has been able to see the special counsel's investigation through to its conclusion. Thanks, Rod. Thank you. Yeah. I'd also like to thank Special Counsel Robert Mueller for his service and the thoroughness of his investigation, particularly his work exposing the nature of Russia's attempts to interfere in our electoral process. As you know, one of the primary purposes of the Special Counsel's investigation was to determine whether President Trump's campaign or any individual associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. Volume 1 of the Special Counsel's report describes the results of that investigation. As you will see, the Special Counsel's report states that his, quote, investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. I am sure that all Americans share my concern about the efforts of the Russian government to interfere in our presidential election. As the Special Counsel report makes clear, the Russian government sought to interfere in our election process. But thanks to the Special Counsel's thorough investigation, we now know that the Russian operatives who perpetrated these schemes did not have the cooperation of President Trump or the Trump campaign, or the knowing assistance of any other American for that matter. That is something that all Americans can and should be grateful to have confirmed. The Special Counsel report outlines two main efforts by the Russian government to influence the 2016 election. First, the report details efforts by the Internet Research Agency, a Russian company with close ties to the Russian government, to sow social discord among American voters through disinformation and social media operations. Following a thorough investigation of this disinformation campaign, the Special Counsel brought charges in federal court against several Russian nationals and entities for their respective roles in this scheme. Those charges remain pending, and the individual defendants remain at large. But the Special Counsel found no evidence that any American, including anyone associated with the Trump campaign, conspired or coordinated with the Russian government or the IRA in this illegal scheme. Indeed, as the report states, quote, the investigation did not identify evidence that any U.S. person knowingly or intentionally coordinated with the IRA's interference operation, unquote. Put another way, the Special Counsel found no collusion by any Americans in IRA's illegal activities. Second, the report details efforts by the Russian military officials associated with the GRU, the Russian Military Intelligence Organization, to hack into computers and steal documents and emails from individuals associated with the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton's campaign for the purpose of eventually publicizing these documents. Obtaining such unauthorized following a thorough investigation of these hacking operations, the special counsel brought charges to the federal court against several Russian military officers for their respective roles in these illegal hacking operations. Those charges are still pending, and the defendants remain at large. But again, the special counsel's report did not find any evidence that members of the Trump campaign or anyone associated with the campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these hacking operations. In other words, there was no evidence of the Trump campaign collusion with the Russian government's hacking. The special counsel's investigation also examined Russian efforts to publish stolen emails and documents on the internet. The special counsel found that after the GRU disseminated some of the stolen documents to entities that it controlled, DC Leaks and Guccifer II, the GRU transferred some of the stolen materials to WikiLeaks for publication. WikiLeaks then made a series of document dumps. The special counsel also investigated whether any member or affiliate of the Trump campaign encouraged or otherwise played a role in these dissemination efforts. Under applicable law, publication of these types of material would not be criminal unless the publisher also participated in the underlying hacking conspiracy. Here, too, the special counsel's report did not find that any person associated with the Trump campaign illegally participated in the dissemination of the materials. Finally, the special counsel investigated a number of links or contacts between the Trump campaign officials and individuals connected with the Russian government during the 2016 presidential campaign. After reviewing these contacts, the special counsel did not find any conspiracy to violate U.S. law involving Russian-linked persons and any persons associated with the Trump campaign. So that's the bottom line. After nearly 2 years of investigation, thousands of subpoenas, hundreds of warrants, and witness interviews, the special counsel confirmed that the Russian government sponsored efforts to illegally interfere with the 2016 presidential election, but did not find that the Trump campaign or other Americans colluded in those efforts. After finding no underlying collusion with Russia, the special counsel's report goes on to consider whether certain actions of the president could amount to obstruction of the special counsel's investigation. As I addressed in my March 24th letter, the special counsel did not make a traditional prosecutorial judgment regarding this allegation. Instead, the report recounts 10 episodes involving the president and discusses potential legal theories for connecting those activities to the elements of an obstruction offense. After carefully reviewing the facts and legal theories outlined in the report, and in consultation with the Office of Legal Counsel and other department lawyers, the Deputy Attorney General and I concluded that the evidence developed by the special counsel is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. Although the Deputy Attorney General and I disagreed with some of the special counsel's legal theories and felt that some of the episodes examined did not amount to obstruction as a matter of law, we did not rely solely on that in making our decision. Instead, we accepted the special counsel's legal framework for purposes of our analysis and evaluated the evidence as presented by the special counsel in reaching our conclusions. In assessing the president's actions discussed in the report, it is important to bear in mind the context. President Trump faced an unprecedented situation. As he entered into office and sought to perform his responsibilities as president, federal agents and prosecutors were scrutinizing his conduct before and after taking office and the conduct of some of his associates. At the same time, there was relentless speculation in the news media about the president's personal culpability. Yet, as he said from the beginning, there was in fact no collusion. And as the special counsel's report acknowledges, there is substantial evidence to show that the president was frustrated and angered by his sincere belief that the investigation was undermining his presidency, propelled by his political opponents, and fueled by illegal leaks. Nonetheless, the White House fully cooperated with the special counsel's investigation, providing unfettered access to campaign and White House documents, directing senior aides to testify freely, and asserting no privilege claims. And at the same time, the president took no act that in fact deprived the special counsel of the documents and witnesses necessary to complete his investigation. Apart from whether the acts were obstructive, this evidence of non-corrupt motives weighs heavily against any allegation that the president had a corrupt intent to obstruct the investigation. Now, before I take questions, I want to address a few aspects of the process for producing the public report that I am releasing today. As I said several times, the report contains limited redactions related to 4 categories of information. To ensure as much transparency as possible, those redactions have been clearly labeled so that the readers can tell which redactions correspond to which categories. Now, to recall, those categories are 6E material, grand jury material, information that the IC believes would disclose sources and methods, information that would impair the investigation and prosecution of other cases that are underway, and finally, information that implicates the privacy and reputational interests of peripheral third parties. As you will see, most of the redactions were compelled by the need to prevent harm to ongoing matters and to comply with court orders prohibiting the public disclosure of information bearing on ongoing investigations and criminal cases, such as the IRA case and the Roger Stone case. These redactions were applied by Department of Justice attorneys working closely together with attorneys from the special counsel's office, as well as the intelligence community, and prosecutors are handling the ongoing cases. The redactions are their work product. No redactions done by anybody outside this group. There were no redactions done by anybody outside this group. No one outside this group proposed any redactions, and no one outside the department has seen the unredacted report, with the exception of certain sections that were made available to IC, the intelligence community, for their advice on protecting intelligence sources and methods. Consistent with longstanding executive branch practice, the decision whether to assert executive privilege over any portion of the report rested with the President of the United States. Because the White House had voluntarily cooperated with the special counsel, significant portions of the report contained material over which the President could have asserted privilege, and he would have been well within his rights to do so. Following my March 29th letter, the Office of the White House Counsel requested the opportunity to review the redacted version of the report in order to advise the President on the potential invocation of privilege, which is consistent with longstanding practice. Following that review, the President confirmed that in the interest of transparency and full disclosure to the American people, he would not assert privilege over the special counsel's report. Accordingly, the public report I am releasing today contains redactions only for the 4 categories that I previously outlined, and no material has been redacted based on executive privilege. In addition, earlier this week, the President's personal counsel requested and was given the opportunity to read a final version of the redacted report before it was publicly released. That request was consistent with the practice followed under the Ethics in Government Act, which permitted individuals named in a report prepared by an independent counsel the opportunity to read the report before publication. The President's personal lawyers were not permitted to make and did not request any redactions. In addition to making the redacted report public, we are also working with Congress to accommodate their legitimate oversight interests with respect to the special counsel's investigation. We have been consulting with Chairman Graham and Chairman Nadler through this process, and we will continue to do so. Given the limited nature of the redactions, I believe that the publicly released report will allow every American to understand the results of the special counsel's investigation. Nevertheless, in an effort to accommodate congressional requests, we will make available, subject to appropriate safeguards, to a bipartisan group of leaders from several congressional committees, a version of the report with all redactions removed, except those relating to grand jury information. Thus, these members of Congress will be able to see all of the redacted material for themselves, with the limited exception of that which, by law, cannot be shared. I believe that this accommodation, together with my upcoming testimony before the Senate and House Judiciary Committees, will satisfy any need Congress has for information regarding the special counsel's investigation. Once again, I'd like to thank you for being here, and I will now have a few questions.
Mr. Attorney General, we don't have the report in hand, so could you explain for us the special counsel's articulated reason for not reaching a decision on obstruction of justice, and if it had anything to do with the department's long-standing guidance on not indicting a sitting president? And you say you disagreed with some of his legal theories. What did you disagree with him on?
I'd leave it to his description in the report, the special counsel's own articulation of why he did not want to make a determination as to whether or not there was an obstruction offense. But I will say that when we met with him, Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein and I met with him, along with Ed O'Callaghan, who is the principal associate deputy, on March 5th, we specifically asked him about the OLC opinion and whether or not he was taking the position that he would have found a crime but for the existence of the OLC opinion. And he made it very clear several times that that was not his position. He was not saying that but for the OLC opinion he would have found a crime. He made it clear that he had not made the determination that there was a crime.
Did you disagree with him on?
May I follow up on that, Mr. Attorney General?
What did you disagree with him on?
Given that, why did you and Mr. Rosenstein feel the need you had to take it to the next step to conclude that there was no crime, especially given that DOJ policy?
Well, the very prosecutorial function and all our powers as prosecutors, including the power to convene grand juries and the compulsory process that's involved there, is for one purpose and one purpose only. It's determine yes or no. Was alleged conduct criminal or not criminal? That is our responsibility, and that's why we have the tools we have. And we don't go through this process just to collect information and throw it out to the public. We collect this information, we use that compulsory process for the purpose of making that decision. And because the special counsel did not make that decision, we felt the department had to, and that was a decision by me and the Deputy Attorney General. Yes.
Or did the special counsel indicate that he wanted you to make the decision, or that it should be left for Congress? And also, how do you respond to criticism you're receiving from congressional Democrats that you're acting more as an attorney for the president rather than as the chief law enforcement officer?
Well, Special Counsel Mueller did not indicate that his purpose was to leave the decision to Congress. I hope that was not his view, since we don't convene grand juries and conduct criminal investigations for that purpose. He did not. I didn't talk to him directly about the fact that we were making the decision, but I am told that his reaction to that was that it was my prerogative as Attorney General to make that decision.
Attorney General Barb Catherine here at Fox News. Hi there. Is there anything you can share today about your review of the genesis of the Russia investigation and whether assets have been provided to investigate?
No, today I'm really focused just on the process of releasing this report.
Attorney General, senior Democrats in Congress have asked for Robert Mueller himself to testify. Robert Mueller remains a Justice Department employee as of this moment. Will you permit him to testify publicly to Congress?
I have no objection to Bob Mueller personally testifying.
Mr. Attorney General, it's not the Democrats who have questioned some of the process here. A Republican-appointed judge on Tuesday said you have, quote, created an environment that has caused a significant part of the American public to be concerned about these redactions. You've cleared the president on obstruction. The president is fundraising off of your comments about spying. And here you have remarks that are quite generous to the president, including acknowledging his feelings and his emotions. So what do you say to people on both sides of the aisle who are concerned that you are trying to protect the president?
Well, actually, the statements about his sincere beliefs are recognized in the report, that there was substantial evidence for that. So I'm not sure what your basis is for saying that I am being generous to the president.
You face an unprecedented situation. It just seems like there's a lot of effort to go out of your way to acknowledge how this.
Well, is there another precedent for it?
No, but it's unusual.
Okay, so unprecedented is an accurate description, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you say to people who are concerned that you are trying to protect the president?
Eric.
There's a lot of public interest in the absence of the special counsel and members of his team. Was he invited to join you up on the podium? Why is he not here? This is his report, obviously, that you're talking about today.
No, it's not. It's a report he did for me as the Attorney General. He is required under the regulation to provide me with a confidential report. I'm here to discuss my response to that report and my decision, entirely discretionary, to make it public, since these reports are not supposed to be made public. That's what I'm here to discuss.
Propriety for you to come out and sort of what appears to be sort of spinning the report before the public gets a chance to read it?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
You've been watching U.S. Attorney General William Barr discussing the release later this morning of the special counsel's report into allegations of Russian interference in the presidential election of 2016. This, of course, is Attorney General summarizing the contents of the report, but it has not been released yet. So there has been some criticism hurled at his office related to that timeline and making that choice. But again, you heard the Attorney General say that the principal conclusion of the report was that there was no Russian collusion involved in the uncovered by the investigation with any American. He went on to say that the special counsel's office did investigate, did look into potential instances of obstruction of justice, and that he, in consultation with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, determined that that was not the case. We're going to stand by for some reaction to this press conference. Actually, let's take you to, I believe we are still on the air with some, I think we've gone to break. We had some coverage from Fox News. Again, the top headline is that Attorney General Barr will transmit the Mueller report to Congress at 11 a.m. And he's affirmed that Special Counsel Robert Mueller found no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. Let's listen again to some of the Attorney General's comments during the news conference.
here today, and for his assistance and counsel throughout this process. Rod, as you know, has served at the department for nearly 30 years with dedication and distinction, and it's been a great privilege and pleasure for me to work with him since my confirmation. He had well-deserved plans to step back from public service that were interrupted by my asking him to help in my transition. Rod has been an invaluable partner, and I am grateful that he is willing to help me and has been able to see the special counsel's investigation through to its conclusion. Thanks, Rod. Thank you. Yeah. I'd also like to thank Special Counsel Robert Mueller for his service and the thoroughness of his investigation, particularly his work exposing the nature of Russia's attempts to interfere in our electoral process. As you know, one of the primary purposes of the Special Counsel's investigation was to determine whether President Trump's campaign or any individual associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. Volume 1 of the Special Counsel's report describes the results of that investigation. As you will see, the Special Counsel's report states that his, quote, investigation did not establish that members of the Trump
Looks like our replay has paused there. Let's take another live look at the stage at the Department of Justice. I can tell you that the President has just tweeted a reaction to the news conference. Let me work to get that up on the screen for you in a moment. Here is how the President Trump is reacting to Attorney General Barr's news conference. It was just held. No collusion, no obstruction for the haters and the radical left Democrats. Game over. Again, that's the President's reaction on Twitter. He's been active throughout the morning. I could show you a few other of his tweets. Of course, Attorney General Barr mentioned that the President's personal lawyer was able to read a redacted version of the Mueller report before its public release. Here's a live look at the White House. We're going to get you out to reaction as it comes in. For the moment, let's show you some of the President's other tweets this morning. These were ahead of the news conference. No collusion, no obstruction was the President's tweet, again, before the news conference was held. This came with a video of the President repeating over and over previously that there was no collusion, no obstruction. The President also encouraged his Twitter followers to watch the press conference on Fox News and One American Network. He also retweeted some video of Congressman Nadler making some seemingly contradictory statements. Retweeted Judicial Watch, conservative outlet, with some different posts. Called it presidential harassment, and also made this statement calling the special counsel investigation the greatest political hoax of all time. Crimes were committed by crooked, dirty cops and DNC, the Democrats. as we look back at the White House, I can tell you that Representative Jerry Nadler Again, Nadler, who represents parts of Manhattan and Brooklyn, and is chair of the House Judiciary Committee, tweeted, "It is clear Congress and the American people must hear from Special Counsel Robert Mueller in person to better understand his findings. We are now requesting Mueller to appear before House Judiciary as soon as possible." And attached to that is a letter dated April 18th to former FBI Director and Special Counsel Robert Mueller. He has already communicated to the Department of Justice and requests his testimony before the Judiciary Committee as soon as possible. No later than May 23rd is the request being made by Chairman Nadler. As you might expect, the Twitter handle DNC War Room is tweeting, "Don't believe Barr's spin from this sham publicity stunt. Wait to read the full report to understand for yourself." While the GOP's official Twitter handle is quoting AG Bill Barr as saying there was no evidence of Trump campaign collusion with the Russian government's hacking. So again, we'll bring you any reaction to the Mueller report that becomes available, but for now I can tell you this is the response from the President's official Twitter account, the President's personal Twitter account. Let's replay the top of the news conference for you, in case you missed the beginning of the news conference. Again, this is the start of the news conference where U.S. Attorney General William Barr spoke about the impending release of the redacted Mueller report, expected at 11 a.m. today.
The greatest degree possible of transparency concerning the special counsel's investigation, consistent with the law. At 11 this morning, I'm going to transmit copies of the public version of the special counsel's report to the chairman and ranking members of the Senate and House Judiciary Committees. The Department of Justice will also make the report available to the American people by posting it on the department's website after it has been delivered to Congress. I'd like to make a few comments today on the report. Before I do that, I want to thank Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein for joining me here today and for his assistance and counsel throughout this process. Rod, as you know, has served at the department for nearly 30 years with dedication and distinction, and it's been a great privilege and pleasure for me to work with him since my confirmation. He had well-deserved plans to step back from public service that were interrupted by my asking him to help in my transition. Rod has been an invaluable partner, and I am grateful that he is willing to help me and has been able to see the special counsel's investigation through to its conclusion. Thanks, Rod. Thank you. Yeah. I'd also like to thank Special Counsel Robert Mueller for his service and the thoroughness of his investigation, particularly his work exposing the nature of Russia's attempts to interfere in our electoral process. As you know, one of the primary purposes of the special counsel's investigation was to determine whether President Trump's campaign or any individual associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. Volume 1 of the special counsel's report describes the results of that investigation. As you will see, the special counsel's report states that his, quote, investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. I am sure that all Americans share my concern about the efforts of the Russian government to interfere in our presidential election. As the special counsel report makes clear, the Russian government sought to interfere in our election process. But thanks to the special counsel's thorough investigation, we now know that the Russian operatives who perpetrated these schemes did not have the cooperation of President Trump or the Trump campaign, or the knowing assistance of any other American for that matter. That is something that all Americans can and should be grateful to have confirmed. The special counsel report outlines two main efforts by the Russian government to influence the 2016 election. First, the report details efforts by the Internet Research Agency, a Russian company with close ties to the Russian government, to sow social discord among American voters through disinformation and social media operations. Following a thorough investigation of this disinformation campaign, the special counsel brought charges in federal court against several Russian nationals and entities for their respective roles in this scheme. Those charges remain pending, and the individual defendants remain at large. But the special counsel found no evidence that any American, including anyone associated with the Trump campaign, conspired or coordinated with the Russian government or the IRA in this illegal scheme. Indeed, as the report states, quote, the investigation did not identify evidence that any U.S. person knowingly or intentionally coordinated with the IRA's interference operation, unquote. Put another way, the special counsel found no collusion by any Americans in IRA's illegal activities. Second, the report details efforts by the Russian military officials associated with the GRU, the Russian Military Intelligence Organization, to hack into computers and steal documents and emails from individuals associated with the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton's campaign for the purpose of eventually publicizing these documents. Obtaining such unauthorized Following a thorough investigation of these hacking operations, the special counsel brought charges in federal court against several Russian military officers for their respective roles in these illegal hacking operations. Those charges are still pending, and the defendants remain at large. But again, the special counsel's report did not find any evidence that members of the Trump campaign or anyone associated with the campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these hacking operations. In other words, there was no evidence of the Trump campaign collusion with the Russian government's hacking. The special counsel's investigation also examined Russian efforts to publish stolen emails and documents on the internet. The special counsel found that after the GRU disseminated some of the stolen documents to entities that it controlled, DC Leaks and Guccifer II, the GRU transferred some of the stolen materials to WikiLeaks for publication. WikiLeaks then made a series of document dumps. The special counsel also investigated whether any member or affiliate of the Trump campaign encouraged or otherwise played a role in these dissemination efforts. Under applicable law, publication of these types of material would not be criminal unless the publisher also participated in the underlying hacking conspiracy. Here, too, the special counsel's report did not find that any person associated with the Trump campaign illegally participated in the dissemination of the materials. Finally, the special counsel investigated a number of links or contacts between the Trump campaign officials and individuals connected with the Russian government during the 2016 presidential campaign. After reviewing these contacts, the special counsel did not find any conspiracy to violate U.S. law involving Russian-linked persons and any persons associated with the Trump campaign. So that's the bottom line. After nearly 2 years of investigation, thousands of subpoenas, hundreds of warrants, and witness interviews, the special counsel confirmed that the Russian government sponsored efforts to illegally interfere with the 2016 presidential election, but did not find that the Trump campaign or other Americans colluded in those efforts. After finding no underlying collusion with Russia, the special counsel's report goes on to consider whether certain actions of the president could amount to obstruction of the special counsel's investigation. As I addressed in my March 24th letter, the special counsel did not make a traditional prosecutorial judgment regarding this allegation. Instead, the report recounts 10 episodes involving the president and discusses potential legal theories for connecting those activities to the elements of an obstruction offense. After carefully reviewing the facts and legal theories outlined in the report, and in consultation with the Office of Legal Counsel and other department lawyers, the Deputy Attorney General and I concluded that the evidence developed by the special counsel is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. Although the Deputy Attorney General and I disagreed with some of the special counsel's legal theories and felt that some of the episodes examined did not amount to obstruction as a matter of law, we did not rely solely on that in making our decision. Instead, we accepted the special counsel's legal framework for purposes of our analysis and evaluated the evidence as presented by the special counsel in reaching our conclusions. In assessing the president's actions discussed in the report, it is important to bear in mind the context. President Trump faced an unprecedented situation. As he entered into office and sought to perform his responsibilities as president, federal agents and prosecutors were scrutinizing his conduct before and after taking office and the conduct of some of his associates. At the same time, there was relentless speculation in the news media about the president's personal culpability. Yet, as he said from the beginning, there was in fact no collusion. And as the special counsel's report acknowledges, there is substantial evidence to show that the president was frustrated and angered by his sincere belief that the investigation was undermining his presidency, propelled by his political opponents, and fueled by illegal leaks. Nonetheless, the White House fully cooperated with the special counsel's investigation, providing unfettered access to campaign and White House documents, directing senior aides to testify freely, and asserting no privilege claims. And at the same time, the president took no act that in fact deprived the special counsel of the documents and witnesses necessary to complete his investigation. Apart from whether...
Again, those were some of the bottom line conclusions from the summary of the Mueller report that U.S. Attorney General William Barr provided this morning during a news conference ahead of the redacted report's release. I can show you some of the reaction I mentioned we'd be looking for. Let's get to that. Of course, the main reaction, the primary reaction in the immediate aftermath of the news conference was President Trump tweeting this Game of Thrones themed image where he said no collusion, no obstruction for the haters and the radical left Democrats, game over. As I mentioned, House Judiciary Chairman Representative Jerry Nadler said it's clear Congress and the American people must hear from Special Counsel Robert Mueller in person to better understand his findings. We are now requesting Mueller to appear before House Judiciary as soon as possible. That tweet accompanied a letter to the former FBI director requesting his presence before the committee by May 23rd, so about 5 weeks or so. Nadler continued, "We cannot take Attorney General Barr's word for it. We must read the full Mueller report and the underlying evidence. This is about transparency and ensuring accountability." That's a theme with a lot of the response from Democrats on Twitter right now. Of course, if they go before a microphone and speak, we'll try and get that for you. But we also have response from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. "Now that President Donald Trump's campaign press conference is over, it's time for Congress and the American people to see the Mueller report." And to show you the swing in opinion out there on Twitter and spin on the news conference, the GOP, of course, just quoting from Attorney General Bill Barr, saying there was no evidence of Trump campaign collusion with the Russian government's hacking. So I want to bring you both sides of the reaction here. Here's a live shot of the U.S. Capitol. Again, the Mueller report will be delivered to Congress at 11 a.m. It's a redacted version of the full report, which is said to be approximately 400 pages long. There are certain redactions that will be lifted for members of Congress, according to reporting that's out there. Some of them will get to see less redacted or unredacted versions of the report. It's not clear which. In secure areas of Congress. Again, to get to some details of the news conference earlier, according to Attorney General Barr, Robert Mueller drew no conclusion about whether President Donald Trump had obstructed justice in the investigation. Barr said he and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein personally had concluded that while Trump was, quote, frustrated and angry, end quote, about the Mueller probe, nothing the president did rose to the level of an obstruction of justice offense. Barr said Mueller's report examined 10 episodes pertaining to Trump and possible obstruction. Barr also said the president did not exert executive privilege to withhold anything in the report, and he said the president's personal attorney had requested and gotten a chance to review the report before its public release. So again, we'll get you any reaction that comes in to the report. In the meantime, let's get you a look at your weather here in Philadelphia. There's our next rainmaker moving into the area. Parts of the holiday weekend will be wet. Let's get you more details on the forecast. First, let's take a look outside. You're looking at the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. The Philadelphia Museum of Art in the background there. Currently up to 63 degrees. The dew point is at 54. Winds out of the east at 8 miles per hour. Get you a closer look at radar. Rain not quite reaching us here right now. Here are your current temperatures. 60s from Philadelphia south for the most part. 50s and 40s to the north. Your northeast temperatures. U.S. temperatures. 81 in the hot spot down in Miami, 76 in Tampa and New Orleans, 60s in Texas, Houston and Dallas at least, El Paso 54. San Francisco 53, Portland 48. Cool spot on the map right now appears to be Denver and Santa Fe at 41. Here's your temperature change from the same hour yesterday. About 5 degrees warmer already in Philadelphia, 12 degrees warmer in Cape May, 11 in Dover, 10 in Millville. So we're warming up a bit from the same time yesterday. Here are your wind speeds right now. Single digits inland in most places, although Mount Pocono 13, Trenton 10, Wrightstown 12, Atlantic City 17. We're seeing gusts to 25 in Atlantic City, 22 in Toms River, 18 in Millville, 22 in Trenton. Not much wind chill to speak of because it's quite warm. Visibility is 10 miles across most of the area. And there you see on satellite, a little light cloud cover right now. Here's a look at the national map, Futurecast. Let's check out the local Futurecast here. As we move through the afternoon, we'll have some showers. And tomorrow, by mid-afternoon, rain moving in. Could be heavy at times overnight into Saturday and into Saturday morning. Dry out for a bit, and then we do get another round of rain, it looks like, on Easter Sunday. And that could linger overnight into Monday, and then some rain out to our west as Monday comes to a close. So your 7-day forecast from the Fox 29 Weather Authority. Cloudy, warmer today. We should get all the way up to 78 degrees. Calling it an 8 on our forecast by the numbers. Friday, PM showers and thunderstorms, 75. Good Friday, looks like a 5 on our forecast by the numbers. Of course, celebrating Passover as well. Saturday, AM rain, cooler, 68 degrees. Sunday, Easter Sunday, shower, sun, and a shower, 65. Monday, sunny, warmer, 76. Tuesday, sunny, warm, 78. And Wednesday, clouds, cooler, 66. There is the Benjamin Franklin Bridge in the background and the Christ Church steeple there. We do hear that President Trump is making an appearance at a Wounded Warriors event at 10:30. So when we get that shot available, we'll take you there. In the meantime, let's get you a little more national news here. A New Jersey man is under arrest after he attempted to enter St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City with 2 gasoline cans. Church ushers stopped the 37-year-old man around 8 Wednesday evening as he tried to enter the church. They alerted nearby officers with the NYPD Critical Response Command, who took him into custody. Investigators say the man drove to St. Patrick's, parked across the street, and took 2 gas cans and lighter fluid from his car into the cathedral. The man told police he had the gas cans because his car ran out of gas. When cops checked his car, they saw that wasn't true. The man has been charged with a crime at this stage, has not been charged with a crime at this stage, and police have not released his name yet. He's expected to be held for a psychiatric evaluation. Here's a quick look at the stock market. Market up about 1/10 of a percentage point, 30 points, to be at 26,477. Our shot just changed there to, this is the event I was mentioning. We expect it to happen around 10:30. This will be President Donald Trump and his Mrs. Trump participating in the Wounded Warrior Project Soldier Ride. This is expected to get underway soon. Again, expected to happen at 10:30, so we'll be watching for this to get underway. In the meantime, let's try and get you out to at least one more story. Barnes & Noble making it easy for readers to access the Mueller report, and bad news before the release of Samsung's latest smartphone. Fox Business Network's Tracy Carrasco has more in today's Morning Business Outlook.
The major averages closing down but relatively flat on Wednesday, dragged down by healthcare stocks despite stronger than expected Chinese economic data. Barnes & Noble is offering a free download of the Mueller report by ordering it on a Nook tablet or through the Nook reading app. The report can also be pre-ordered now on bn.com and will be available shortly after the expected release this morning. The bookstore said it's seen strong demand from customers and want to make it as easy as possible for them to access the 400-page document. Samsung's new $2,000 smartphone doesn't go on sale until next week, but it's already got problems. Numerous tech reviewers who received the Galaxy Fold, known for its foldable screen, are now reporting that their devices are breaking. Reporters from Bloomberg, The Verge, and CNBC all tweeted photos of how their supposedly flexible screens were blacking out or breaking at their hinges. Samsung said it would investigate the malfunctioning Galaxy Fold phones issued to these tech reviewers. For more, log on to foxbusiness.com. In New York, I'm Tracy Carrasco.
Another live look at the stock market. Again, we're awaiting the President and Melania Trump, First Lady, at this event. This is occurring in the White House. They'll be participating in the Wounded Warrior Project Soldier Ride, the East Room of the White House. See some guests still arriving. The President's already responded this morning to the press conference that was held by his Attorney General, William Barr. There you see his initial reaction on Twitter. Checking to see if he's had any since then, but I don't believe he has. While we stay with this shot, we'll get you some additional reaction to the Attorney General's report. Of course, Democrats have been highly critical of the handling of the report's release. First, the summary letter, the 4-page summary letter that Attorney General Barr issued, and now is holding a news conference ahead of the release, many making statements that it's time to just read the released redacted report. I see some more reaction coming in. I'll show this for you in a moment, if we can get it in before the president speaks here at the Wounded Warrior event. Here is the headline from the Associated Press right now. America about to see Mueller report. Barr gets in first word in the first two lead sentences. After nearly 2 years of waiting, America is getting some Trump-Russia answers straight from Robert Mueller. Eager to get in a first word ahead of the public release of the special counsel's report, Attorney General William Barr on Thursday laid out in advance what he said was the, quote, bottom line, end quote. No collusion between the Trump campaign and Russian government hackers. We mentioned earlier that some members of Congress, Democratic, are calling for Robert Mueller, the former FBI director and special counsel, in this case, to testify before Congress. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi now following up on those requests, saying that Attorney General Barr has confirmed the staggering partisan effort of the Trump admin to spin public's view of the Mueller report, complete with acknowledgement that the Trump team received a sneak preview. It's more urgent than ever that special counsel Mueller testify before Congress. So if you expected the battle over the Mueller report to end today, that will probably not be the case. Of course, the report is being issued in a redacted form today. Democrats awaiting the release to Congress at 11 a.m. And then it's expected to be posted for the public as well, the redacted version. There may be some redactions lifted for members of Congress to see in a listening into an update here. President Trump, of course, expected to speak soon at this Wounded Warrior event.
Ladies and gentlemen, the warriors of the Wounded Warrior Project's Soldier Ride, D.C. Lance Corporal Zach Kowalik, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Devin Clark, United States Army. Private First Class Taylor Clinker, United States Army. Captain Patrick Nugent, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Matthew Brown, United States Army. Petty Officer First Class Luke Pete, United States Navy. Specialist Robert Croy, United States Army. Specialist Luis Cantu, United States Army. Sergeant Justin Sather, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Troy Frodel, United States Marine Corps. Gunnery Sergeant Jose Morla, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Jeremy Velez, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Trevor Brunel, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Jorge Avalos, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Casey Grella, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant First Class Anthony Valentino, Jr., United States Army. Staff Sergeant Jody Kemper, United States Air Force. Sergeant Joseph Burke, United States Army. Petty Officer First Class Carol Bailey, United States Coast Guard. Petty Officer First Class Nez Nelson, United States Navy. Corporal Oscar De La Rosa, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Second Class Cynthia Hernandez, United States Navy. First Lieutenant John Fernandez, United States Army. Petty Officer First Class Alana Wilhelm, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Jeremiah Pauley, United States Army. Commander Thomas Olivero, United States Navy. Lieutenant Junior Grade Jordan Lowe, United States Navy. Specialist William Mathis, United States Army. Sergeant Samantha Monadum, United States Army. Senior Airman Justin Day, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant John Bennett, United States Army. Sergeant Rory Cooper, United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Michael Linnington and Jose Ramos.
Thank you very much. Please. I am thrilled to host the Wounded Warrior Project. It's been a long relationship I've had, and the Soldier Ride is something very, very special. Few people could do it, including me. I hate to admit it. I hate to admit that, General, but including me. We're deeply honored to be in the presence of true American heroes. I want to thank our great Vice President, Mike Pence, and Karen Pence for being with us today. Thank you, Mike and Karen. Stand up. Mike, stand up. And theirs is really a fierce devotion. I can tell you that. Speaking, I deal with Mike and Karen, and they have a fierce devotion to America's veterans, and we all do, and thank you very much. We're also grateful to be joined by Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan. Patrick, thank you very much. Great job you're doing. 100% of the caliphate. So that was great. That was one of our early assignments, right, with you. So I appreciate it. Great job, Pat. General Counsel of Veteran Affairs, Jim Byrne. Jim, thank you very much, Jim. Great job. And Army Vice Chief of Staff General James McConville. James, thank you, James. Thank you very much. I also want to thank two great congressmen for being here, and if we had room, we would have had a lot more. Phil Rowe and James Baird. Thank you very much. Thank you, fellas. And they're having a good day. I'm having a good day, too. It was called No Collusion, No Obstruction. I'm having a good day. There never was, by the way, and there never will be. And we do have to get to the bottom of these things, I will say. And this should never happen. I say this in front of my friends, wounded warriors, and I just call them warriors because we just shook hands and they look great. They look so good, so beautiful. But I say it in front of my friends, this should never happen to another president again. This hoax, this should never happen to another president again. Thank you. With us on stage today are the wounded warriors from the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the National Guard, and the Marine Corps. Each of you is a living testament to the outstanding determination, persistence, and patriotism that made this the greatest nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. And as you know, we're spending the biggest number of dollars we've ever spent, not even close. You know that very well, General. $700 billion my first year. I won't even tell you how much higher than before we got here. And then 716, and this year we're even trying to up it. We're rebuilding our military like never before. Brand new fighter jets, brand new ships of all kinds. Every soldier has the best equipment. In the Army, we're even getting new uniforms, and those beautiful new uniforms with the belt. It was a big deal, the belt. And if you think those uniforms were inexpensive, they were very expensive. They were but they wanted it, and we got it. We have equipment now like we've never had before. We have research going on for the new and greatest equipment in the world. Nobody is even close. Nobody can do what we can do. And we're at a level that we have really never been. So a lot of progress has been made. When I came in with Mike, we were a depleted armed forces. We were depleted. We had planes that were 50, 60 years old. And we had things that going on that you wouldn't believe, that the general knew, that General, I think we all knew, and we weren't happy about it, and we took it. And I'm a big budget person, but there's one thing more important than the budget, maybe a couple of things, but there's one thing in particular, and that's our military and our defense of our nation. Because without the defense of our nation, our budget doesn't matter. And we have done a real job. And I think when I go to the bases and I'm with the soldiers and the sailors and everybody, the Marines, we spent a lot of time with Marines the other day. Coast Guard, doing the most advanced icebreaker in the world. They were trying to get it for 20 years. They couldn't get it. We're doing it. It is expensive, I will say. Built in the USA, by the way. But all of the things that we're getting, and I think in particular the Air Force with the planes, we're ordering vast numbers of F-35 fighter jets. I've tried to keep the price as low as possible. I got involved personally. I don't even know if I'm supposed to do it. I'll probably get in trouble because I cut the price, you know. But we cut it very substantially. Very, very substantially. And the F-18s and every kind of plane you can think of, the bombers, the tankers. We have the greatest equipment in the world. Everybody wants it, and we only give it to those that are working with us. And they pay for it, by the way. That's always nice. You know, in the old days, they weren't paying so much. Now, at least they pay, and they're happy about it. They respect us again. They respect our country again. Today, America proudly salutes you and all of your fellow warriors. You are incredible warriors. And when I took pictures just a little while ago, some of the guys walked in. Where are they? Are they here? Where are they? They walked in. They said hello. They were so... Could you stand, please? Where are they? What happened? Okay, they're there, but I had some out here, too. Everybody stand, please. Please. Because you are fantastic, Joe. There's great admiration in this room and all over the country for all of you, and for all of you. And we really appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. Great job. We're in awe of your courage, and we are forever grateful for your noble sacrifice. I also extend my deep gratitude to the amazing military spouses and the families that are here today. A lot of families here, yes? Stand up, please. Spouses, stand up, please. Please. Without the families, the spouses, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not the same. Your love sustains our warriors and our nation, and we want to thank you so much. You are incredible people. We're also delighted to have a distinguished World War II veteran in attendance, Corporal James Blaine, who was wounded in action at the famous Battle of Iwo Jima, and that was a battle. Where's James? Hi, James, please. Thank you, James, a real hero. We're honored by your presence. Thank you. Tomorrow, the Wounded Warriors on stage with me will complete the final miles of their more than 30-mile soldier ride through Maryland and Virginia. On battlegrounds all over the world, these brave patriots risked their lives and shed their blood to defend our nation, our people, and our great American flag. Nobody defends our country like those people representing all others, but those people in the room today. Very, very special group. Here at home, they've beaten back injury and illness, in some cases beyond anybody's wildest imagination, and persevered through pain and adversity and hardship. The word comeback, greatest comeback, but it's a word even beyond. It's just courage, pure and simple courage. The legacy of service is a gift to every single American. Through their example, we witness the daily triumph of the human spirit and the unmatched valor of the American patriot. Among our wounded warriors here today is 23-year-old Justin Day. While clearing towns in Afghanistan of terrorist fighters, in July, Justin stepped on an IED. Not good. Since then, he has endured more than a dozen surgeries, including the amputation of his right leg. Today, Justin continues his recovery at Walter Reed, where, by the way, they do an incredible job. I'm there a lot to say hello to the folks. They do unbelievable work. There's nothing that I've ever seen like they do. And they have cutting-edge technology. They have the best doctors. And that's why I think I'm going to have to be president for many, many years, because I never want to use a regular doctor again. It's one of the benefits I get, Walter Reed. They have great doctors, right? I mean, they're just incredible people. And Aubrey is here, Justin's wife. And where is? Stand up, please. Wow. Wow. I have a little bad news. He looks like Justin. Right? Looks like Justin. Too bad. That is a beautiful baby. Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Just days ago, Justin got on a bike for the first time since his injury. Tomorrow he will finish the grueling course alongside of his fellow warriors, and it is really grueling. Justin, your story, like so many others in this room, is an inspiration to all of us and to all Americans. Honestly, I really think it's an inspiration all over the world. People right now are watching all over the world. Also with us today is Lieutenant General Mike Lennington, who serves as CEO of the Wounded Warrior Project and has done an incredible job. Hasn't been there that long, but boy, you took it and you just, what a job you've done. What a job you've done. In a moment, General Lennington will introduce another truly remarkable wounded warrior, Jose Ramos. Before we hear from General Lennington and Mr. Ramos, I want to thank every veteran in the room for your patriotic service and selfless sacrifice that you put out on a daily basis. You are so respected, so loved by our country. You are the guardians of American liberty. You are the foundation of American strength, and you are the greatest source of American courage, honor, and pride that we have. So I just want to say to everybody, may God bless you. May God bless our incredible, which is what they are, wounded warriors, and all of our veterans, and may God bless our military and, very importantly, our great country, the United States of America. Thank you very much. So, General, please come up and say a few. Thank you, General.
Thank you, Mr. President. President Trump, Vice President Mrs. Pence, Secretary Shanahan, Cabinet and congressional leaders, fellow veteran service organizations, and the room is packed with many of the leaders from our veteran service organizations that we work with together. Most importantly, our warriors and families, thank you all for joining us today. On behalf of the entire team at Wounded Warrior Project, we're honored today to celebrate this exceptional group of wounded warriors standing behind me. It's truly an honor to be here at the White House for Soldier Ride DC, our 12th year in a row. How about that? 12th year in a row. And we're grateful for having such a great group of American patriots behind me. As the President said yesterday, the wounded warriors behind me rode through the streets of Annapolis, Maryland, and the campus of the U.S. Naval Academy, where they received incredible encouragement and recognition for their service and sacrifice. Tomorrow they'll ride through Northern Virginia, an uphill, hilly ride, and it's going to be raining. How about that? Continuing to challenge themselves physically while strengthening bonds of friendship and cohesion with each other and with the grateful citizens they'll meet along the way. We know that with the right support, wounded veterans regularly overcome the adversity of their injuries and either return to duty in uniform or lead full productive lives as citizen leaders in the communities in which they settle. And that's really what today is all about. Providing a venue for wounded service members to bond, continue healing, and realize that we are all here for them. Mr. President, thank you for honoring and empowering our nation's finest and for the work you have done and will continue to do on behalf of our military and our veteran community. I now have the honor of introducing our next speaker, Hospital Corpsman Jose Ramos, one of Wounded Warrior Project's legislative directors from our office right here in the nation's capital. A native of El Paso, Texas, Jose joined the Navy in 2000 to become a corpsman, a medic, where he was assigned to several Marine Corps infantry battalions as their platoon doc. Jose served 1 tour in Afghanistan and 2 tours in Iraq. And you can only imagine the difficult conditions Jose faced while he was deployed, multiple times and in very difficult circumstances. In 2004, Jose was hit by a rocket while serving as a member of a Marine sniper team. His injuries were near fatal, causing devastating damage to his left arm. Despite his critical injuries, Jose was not only able to direct a fellow service member in applying a tourniquet to his arm, but he continued to assist other wounded personnel before he was himself medevaced. Jose thankfully recovered and retired from the military in 2005, and amazingly, within months of his injuries, he ran and completed the New York City Marathon. Jose is a former member of the U.S. Para-Triathlon team and a former appointee to the President's Commission on Care for America's Returning Wounded Warriors. He is also a steadfast advocate for his brothers and sisters in arms and is joined today by his beautiful wife, Jody, and children, Donovan and Luke, sitting right here in the front row. Let's give Jose a big round of applause, everyone.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to General Linnington for those kind remarks and for recognizing my beautiful wife and my children. You know, my 9-year-old asked me if I can bring him to the White House one day. And I did today, and now I just got to make sure the Capitals win the playoffs, and I think I'm good for the year. So no, it truly is an honor and a privilege to be here today, to be at the White House amongst all our distinguished guests, and particularly amongst the warriors behind me. Not too long ago, I was standing in their shoes, and it feels like it was yesterday, obviously a few years back, but definitely brings back some memories. I also want to thank the White House staff for putting this together. It's a lot of work, and we really appreciate what you've done. Soldier Right is just one of the many programs Wounded Warrior Project has, but it's a program that's particularly special to me. It's played a significant part in my life. And as General Linnington indicated, I joined the Navy in 2000. In 2004, I was seeing myself serving in my 3rd tour overseas as a corpsman attached to a Marine sniper team when I was severely injured by a rocket attack. Fast forward a little bit, I'm in Walter Reed, waking up, recovering, going through the process as anybody who was injured at the time. And unbeknownst to me, there was a group of friends somewhere in New York coming up with this crazy idea. How about we ride a bicycle across the country, right, to raise awareness and some money for a young organization doing great work, and that was the Wounded Warrior Project. Soon afterwards, in 2004, Chris Carney decided to do just that, and he rode over 5,000 miles across the country from coast to coast. And then the second, or following that, he decided to do it again, this time going in the opposite direction. That was really the birth of Soldier right? That year, we had 2 leg amputees join him, 2 service members still at Walter Reed, Ryan and Heath. And so they trekked starting from San Diego all the way across back towards New York. On their route, they stopped at Walter Reed, where they met up with and picked up a group of newly injured service members to join them the rest of the way. And I was one of the privileged to be able to join through that route. We did about 400 miles in about 7 days. And in that ride, I learned 3 important lessons. Number 1, Pennsylvania is not flat. Right? It is extremely hilly, and if it wasn't for the Amish pastries and the Yingling, I don't think I would have made it through the state. I did say I was a corpsman with the Marine Corps, right? So, number 2, going downhill full speed with one arm is not easy. Did not realize that. And oh, by the way, if you're going to go on long bike rides, make sure you're wearing cycling shorts and make sure they're not inside out. And number 3, the most important lesson of them all is no matter how difficult the challenge is, whether you fall down or crash, whether you need to get off the bike or walk, right? Or if it seems like the miles never end, if there's someone holding you or helping you get back up, walking along your side with you, if there's someone supporting you and helping you realize that the finish line is just a little bit further, anything is possible, right? Those days grinding it out on those roads made me realize and made us all realize that recovery takes time and it takes hard work. But at the same time, if you're willing to put in the time and with the support, you can overcome everything. You might fail, but you will eventually succeed. Now, it's not possible unless you have a great supporting team next to you. That's what Wounded Warrior Project does. And it also provides great company with you. So anything you set to accomplish is possible, and anything that you want to do, you can if you so choose to. So, Mr. President, where do you go? I wanted to again say we appreciate your generosity and your hospitality and your willingness to have us here today to help us remind our nation and our fellow Americans that our nation's wounded warriors still need our compassion and our support, and that the mission of Wounded Warrior Project is to support them along the way on their ride, no matter how long it takes. So thank you again for having us here today.
Thank you. Jose Ramos is the epitome of what it means to be a wounded warrior. And as we say in our land, he's truly living the logo of a warrior that starts being carried off the battlefield and through his recovery and rehabilitation is carrying others in their recovery. So, Jose, thank you for your dedication and your commitment. And Mr. President, a small token of appreciation for you and the White House staff.
Thank you very much. Beautiful.
Please accept this small memento on behalf of all of us, and especially the warriors standing behind me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll take that.
Well, this is really beautiful. This will find a permanent place, at least for 6 years, in the Oval Office. Is that okay? I was going to joke, General, and say at least for 10 or 14 years, but we would cause bedlam if I said it. So we'll say 6. I want to thank you very much. This is fantastic. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody here. Incredible, incredible people. Thank you. I'll see you later. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Good luck, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain at your seats until the President has departed the East Room. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain at your seats until the Warriors have departed the East Room.
Hello again, Paul Ruppel here with Fox 29 News Now. You've been watching President Trump attending a Wounded Warrior Project event there in the East Room at the White House. While we were covering that event, the Department of Justice did, in fact, as it promised at 11 a.m., release a redacted version of Special Counsel's Russia probe report. We've been watching some of the headlines as they come across. Here, of course, was our tweet that the headline from the Associated Press as the report was released said that the report reveals President Trump's efforts to seize control of Russia probe and force the special counsel's removal. Of course, President Trump's reaction during that Wounded Warrior event: no collusion, no obstruction. Also said this should never happen to another president again. We, of course, have a link to coverage and the redacted version of Robert Mueller's report, almost 400 pages. And another headline for you. Mueller's team considered President Trump's written answers inadequate, but decided against a subpoena fight for an interview. So there are some of the headlines right now coming out of the report. Of course, reporters are reading the report. It's said to contain the president's written responses, as it said there. Those written responses are up, I believe it's more than 400 pages, because I saw figures that those particular elements are beyond 400 pages into the document that has been released. Redacted document, of course. Live look at both the U.S. Capitol and the White House. Have not seen any live events pop up with reaction to the report just yet. Of course, we've shown you a lot of the Twitter responses at the moment. Stay with Fox 29 News online, fox29.com, and on our Facebook page, Fox 29 Philadelphia. Our Twitter account will be continuing to send updates as they come in on the details and content of the special counsel's report that has been released. It's now public, the redacted version for the public to read. I see a lot of journalists and others commenting on trying to find discrepancies between what U.S. Attorney General William Barr announced during his press conference this morning and the contents of the report. Lots of scrutiny to come, I'm sure, and commentary on what has been redacted, how it's been redacted. Democrats, of course, will probably still want the full report released. So we'll have full coverage for you on the Fox 29 News at 5, 6, 10, and 11 tonight as well. Thank you very much for watching News Now. We'll be streaming on our Facebook page and website if we have any other developments or updates. Have a great rest of your day.